All right, this is the Radical Rant podcast for May the 29th of 2019. Adam aka CSRadical here with you on what's looking to be a quite depressing day for me as it's cold and rainy. I just came back from doing my grocery shopping for the morning. It has not been a very pleasant, what's supposed to be near the end of May kind of day, which likely means too that I'm about to see my fifth of six rec league baseball games get canceled, which is kind of frustrating now because, exercise is kind of important these days, and I have had very few opportunities to do so. But it is what it is. So we got plenty to talk about. Obviously, if you've been looking at the channel, I had the chance to post my review for All Elite Wrestling's first show, officially, Double or Nothing. And it was really what kind of kicked off and honestly was the highlight point of what ended up being probably one of my best weekends that I've had in quite some time, and I seriously needed that. So the whole weekend was going to be pretty much fun to begin with. I mean, finally, I knew I was going to get to at least play. This is the weekend that I got one baseball game in, so that already is immediately the best I can possibly hope for in the last little while. But I was looking forward to this wrestling show more than I had any wrestling show in quite some time, and I was extremely excited for that. And I had a bunch of friends over. We kind of chilled in the afternoon. They're big D&D players, me not so much, but I'm always happy to just be there in the background and listening and watching as they enjoy themselves. And we decided just before all the pre-show stuff for the wrestling show that we were going to go across the street just to get some burritos because there's a really good burrito place just down the street. And when we left, it was perfectly sunny. We could see plenty of blue sky up in the air, and everything seemed fine. We walk down there. We go to the convenience store just to grab a few drinks, and by that point, okay, well, this blue sky is starting to go away. It's basically just cloudy now. I'm like, all right, we probably still got enough time. It should be all right. Like, if anything, it's gonna spit. No big deal. We get into the burrito place, and as we're starting to order, I get mine, and I just happen to look outside, and it's now starting to get black, to the point that there was actually clouds that were green up in the distance. And I'm thinking, well, that is not a good sign. But I'm thinking, okay, it's like a 5-minute walk at worst case for, to get to the burrito place back to my apartment. So it's no big deal. No big deal. And as soon as we leave, it's spitting. And I'm thinking, okay, it's still not that bad. It's fine. Like, okay, so our hair's a little misty. No big deal. I'm joking as we get closer to the one set of lights that are on our route. And I'm thinking, man, if it starts pouring, I am jaywalking like a motherfucker, and I don't give a shit. Because I got a burrito in my hand, and I don't want to ruin it. And sure enough, as soon as we stop at the lights and it goes green again for us to start walking, it just starts pouring. And thankfully, it's only about a minute sprint at that point, so I just hightailed it over. Felt fantastic, to be honest. Like, I'm not talking about being wet, but just in terms of running, like, it felt great to just do that. But we were absolutely freaking soaked. So we're thinking, oh great, so this is going to be starting off what's looking to be hopefully a fun evening. And then sure enough, as we get to the pay-per-view, it ended up being an absolute blast to do. So no complaints on that front. And in the end, like, we had a absolute ball of a time watching that show, including a couple of our friends that weren't too familiar with wrestling. There was a lot of stuff in there that they really got a chance to take in and enjoy, rather than, just being a hardcore fan like me and some of my other friends are. But that was great. And then on the Sunday, like I said, I finally got a chance to get my first ball game in, and I signed up for an individual team, so I don't have like a full team of friends that I could have played with. So I had a couple that I knew, but for the most part, it was going to be new people. And generally speaking, when you join a team like that, you often get a lot of people that are very new to whatever they've signed up for. Or they're doing it just for kind of like something to mess around with and try out. And this year, our team is actually full of people that have played. So, not having to teach that many people is a great plus, because it means I don't have to worry about focusing on what other people are doing along with what I'm doing at the same time, which means it's very easy for me to make mistakes. In our first game, we played a team that I've played before, and we usually don't win, and we won 30-9. And I couldn't believe that. We had a team of guys that could all run, could hit, could field. Everything went as well as it could have. Now, I'm not assuming that it means we're going to be winning the championship, because I don't ever do that. But at least I felt leaving that game that, okay, I'm actually going to have a fun time instead of just being frustrated watching people like trip over themselves just trying to catch a ground ball. So for me, the weekend was fantastic, and even the rest of this week has not been actually that bad, including at work. So it's been kind of a nice positive change after what's honestly been a frustrating few months, despite, having my own place finally here. And there's still been a lot of frustrating, stressful, and depressing things that have gone on with me to keep me at a lower tier of happiness. And now for the first week, I've actually been kind of in a very good mood going forward. And hopefully I can kind of keep like that for a while, because Lord knows I need it. But yeah, that's been my day for a while. I finally got a chance to pick up Dragon Quest XI and start playing around with it. I gotta tell you, just from an old school RPG guy from the Super Nintendo days, like, this game is fantastic. It's not. I'm not even gonna sit here and tell you that it does anything really all that special, because at this point it hasn't done anything special at all. It's basically just an old school RPG. That's all it is. It's nothing over the top. It's not going to do anything crazy like what Persona does, having a little mixture of things. It's not Trails of Cold Steel level, where I was so enthusiastic with the story that I couldn't believe how interested I was in a political struggle. No, the Dragon Quest story is meh. The combat is fine. The aesthetic is really nice. The music is decent. Like, it's not anything that's blowing me away, but what it is it's making me comfortable. It's almost like a JRPG comfort food. It's kind of having that feel of just, I can relax and just kind of enjoy myself, and I'm kind of using it as a winding down kind of game, and as I just grind along and put a podcast on in the background just because I need something to listen to. And it's worked out very nicely for that. And I'm 20 hours in. I'm at level 20 at this point. I haven't really done anything that's made me go, holy crap, that was really cool. Which is why I think, like, this is going to be the kind of game that I'm going to give a pretty average, like, critical rating for, I think, in the end of it, unless it really picks up. But in terms of just straight up enjoyment, like, I'm having a blast playing that game, because it's just, it's reminding me of the old Super Nintendo RPGs I would play back in the day. And it's also going in, it doesn't stress me. It doesn't make me feel too many emotions on a lower scale, at least at this point. I'm just kind of kicking back and enjoying myself instead of, being a little bit too intense, because I think I've been all intensed out on a lot of video games, so I'm happy to calm down a little bit. But yeah, I've been enjoying the hell out of that, and that's kind of what I've been playing lately. I'm waiting to see what happens with Judgment, because that's coming out next month. That's the detective game that's being made by the same guys who do the Yakuza games. It probably will end up being a game that I kind of take it easy on and wait to see if it drops maybe $20, but it's definitely a game I've got my eyes on. But until then, I got plenty of room for stuff. I actually went back and played XCOM a little bit just for fun, and I'm reminded by how much I like that game and at the same time don't like that game, because I can somehow avoid a shotgun shot to the face at 90%, and then I lose a guy to a 15% shot. So, it's that kind of thing where it's just like, all right, fine, what am I going to do? So I got 4 things that we're looking to talk about today. The first one is going to be really quick. It's just more of a man kind of story. So I had no idea about this, but apparently there was a Perfect Dark game in development. And I'm not sure how long ago it was. I'm not sure when it stopped. But it was a game that was supposed to be really, like, the one bit of information we seem to have gotten is that it was going to be an episodic kind of game, which I know a lot of people get a little on edge about, because a lot of episodic games have either not finished or have ended poorly, and they put all their eggs into the first episode, and then after that it's not so great. The way that it's described, though, is it's very interesting. It's basically like a 5-day story, or I'm assuming that because most episodic games are 5 stories. But the idea was that every episode would be a full day in the game. So it would almost be like you're taking on a full spy mission, and you're just going through bits and pieces of the mission, going back and forth. Like, maybe here's the stakeout mission, here's the infiltration stuff, and then you suddenly get surprise attacked on one day. Like, there's a lot of cool stuff I thought that could have been done about it. And that kind of made me sad, because even though Perfect Dark Zero was not that great on Xbox 3, or was it Xbox 3? Yeah, it was 360. As much as I'm really sad that that game sucked, I still can't get past the fact that Perfect Dark was one of the best first-person shooters way back in the day, and still is. If you play, if you can find a version that you can use like a proper controller with, or even mouse and keyboard, because I'm pretty sure there are mods like that, it's fantastic. It still works really well, and I think if they even just HD remastered like the entire N64 game, they could make a lot of money on that if they just basically give it a fresh coat of paint. It would be fantastic. I mean, I remember playing it on Xbox 360 when they put it up there, and I still enjoyed it. You know, it was still fun as hell to play, and it is a great game. And I wish I could see more of it, because I miss the old spy first-person shooters. Like we haven't seen a Bond game in a while, which is surprising too. And I don't want a serious one. I want the hokey ones, like your Nightfires and Agent Under Fires, and I'm blanking on other ones. But ones like that where it's silly. It's not supposed to be like. It's the problem that I kind of have with the Bond movies now is as I'm starting to get out of touch with the more serious ones, and I want to go back to the old Pierce Brosnan ones that were just hokey and had all these crazy gadgets and silly over the top sequences. Like I like that stuff because it was fun. Perfect Dark's the same way. It's just silly fun. Like there's a freaking alien in it called Elvis, and you shoot like a bunch of fucking over the top sci-fi guns. There's a laptop gun that you can throw up against the wall and it becomes a turret. Like there's so much cool stuff in there that I'd love to see it come back, and I'm very frustrated that they can't get this thing going again. And it seems like they keep trying and it's not working. And it's really irritating because it shouldn't be that hard. But who knows? Could be politics behind things. Could be the people with the purse strings messing around with things. Who knows? But it sucks because that's a series that I want to see more of. And the fact that it's been such a long time since Perfect Dark Zero, which was not that great, and they still can't get this right. And it's just irritating. And I can't believe it's that hard. The next one is just something interesting that I saw in the news a couple days ago, is that Sony's looking to have like a VR glove similar to what like films like Ready Player One have done, where it has like feedback, so it gives you the illusion of actually touching stuff. And this is the kind of stuff that makes me think, oh my god, virtual reality is actually pushing forward. I just saw reviews for the new it's blood and something. I can't think of what the second word is. But it's that PSVR that had like the British flair to it that we saw in one of the State of Plays. I think it was the first one. And that one looked really interesting. And the reviews of it have all been very positive, which looks like Sony's getting a pretty good grasp on how to make decent virtual reality games. And I'm curious to see now that they're having this possible glove that can give you feedback in terms of touching things. And they don't want it to just be gloves. They're messing around with the idea of maybe doing stuff like footwear, maybe even hats. And obviously this is like a way into the future kind of thing, but the fact that planning is already starting is quite interesting. And it makes me wonder that, what is virtual reality going to be like, say, 20 years from now? I'm in the state that I don't really want to go for virtual reality unless I can afford to do it now. But if I ever want to partake in these kind of things, I'm not even interested really on my own dime with the amount of money that I make. I'm not interested until at least 2025, when there's at least a good solid amount of time where companies have a chance to really mess with things and take these things a little more seriously and try to find like actual like working solutions rather than just prototypes. Because here's the thing, like I thought the motion controls was a cool idea when I was younger, but I also didn't foot the bill. I didn't buy the Microsoft Kinect. My parents did, and it seemed cool at the time and ended up being an absolute disaster. I still think that that was rough as hell. But this is the thing, you have to have a rough start before you really start to figure it out. It's just I don't want to be spending my own money on the first couple steps towards what's going to be the finished product. I'd rather wait to see where things go once they've had a few tries and they really figure out what they need to do. And that's why I'm curious with this now, that it's like, okay, maybe we are actually making some real progress. And who knows what 5-10 years down the road will look like for VR, and especially 20 years when that's definitely a solid amount of time for us to figure this shit out. But I mean, otherwise, like, just the idea of being able to, like, just a first person shooter alone, being able to feel like you're holding a gun, that would be incredible. Because it would give you that amazing feedback of pulling the trigger. That way, you actually feel like you're in the action. And who knows? Maybe one day, like, if you're in the middle of a battle and there's who knows, if you could have like a vest and gloves and footwear and something like that, and like you're out in a war torn scenario, and you can feel like the ground shaking with your feet, and you can feel the like the sheer amount of like bullets flying around. You can just feel like the intensity around it. Like that kind of stuff would just be absolutely incredible and terrifying at the same time. But that's the kind of stuff that I think is really cool, and I can't wait to see where it goes further. And hopefully we do get to see that sometime in the next decade. I'm hoping it is. I mean, obviously we're going to know more when the moment that new consoles come out again, and maybe we start seeing some more changes. I don't know if, say, with the PS5, that the PSVR is going to be any different, but it's going to be very curious to see where things go. My one thing that I want to see before I really take a good look at VR is I want them to be wireless, because I know I will trip over those cords and break this shit. I do not want to be paying $500 for stuff and then breaking it because I wasn't paying attention to where my feet were. So it's the kind of thing that I'm just like, yeah, let's not take that risk. Also with Sony, another cool thing that came out recently is that they intend to make their own film studio. They don't want to outsource to places. They actually want to make a studio to handle film and television productions based off their IP. Looks like it's probably just going to be called PlayStation Productions, which, no big deal. And in the idea of people thinking, like, oh, that's not that big a deal, I'm like, well, what makes it curious, though, is that, like I said, they're not intending to outsource their stuff. I mean, there were rumors for a while now that, people were shopping around trying to make an Uncharted movie and stuff like that. This would mean, though, that they have full control of their stuff, kind of like what Marvel Studios is. Now, I'm not saying that Sony's like new studio for PlayStation games would be the same as Marvel in terms of quality. We don't know. I mean, for all we know, it could be a lot worse because they might want to make a cheap buck, because there's always that risk, right? But the idea of it being their own studio with their money going forward into it is that they want to make it work. So they're probably going to put at least a little more time into thinking about what they do before they just suddenly click, snap their fingers and just try to make, a quick 50 mil at the box office doing, some haphazard God of War movie or something like that. I think we're at a point now, especially now that Detective Pikachu's come out, and now the Sonic one is being redone because fans reacted so poorly to the initial design. I'm starting to get at a point that, and this is where I'm more interested in talking about more than just PlayStation movies in general, I think video game movies are finally starting to turn a corner where they actually might be taken seriously now. Obviously, with Detective Pikachu being the success it's been, and I'm actually going to go look up to see what their box office is worldwide, because that'll really tell me where they're at in terms of like how much money they're actually making. Now, let's see here. Currently, they are at $120 million domestic, worldwide $358 million, which is very good. Very, very good. I don't know what their budget was. I can't find that. Oh, here it is. The budget was $150 million. So domestically, they've almost equaled their budget, which means worldwide, they've already doubled their profit, which is fantastic news. And it's probably it might hit 400 million by the end, maybe even gets to 500, depending on how long it sits in theaters. But I think at the very least, there's good signs for things. Now, right now, it's ranked the second best video game movie domestically. The winner to that is still Lara Croft Tomb Raider, the original one, which is not surprising because it was the first real big one that we saw. But yeah, as I'm looking at the list here, they're only $11 million from passing Tomb Raider. After that, and this is when you know that a lot of these movies are winning just because they're newer. Angry Birds movie is in third, and there is no reason it should be, and yet it still is. The Rampage movie is still in there, even though it was not given that much. Prince of Persia, and then Resident Evil Afterlife's in there, and then the new Tomb Raider. The new Tomb Raider, it's crazy to think about it. The new Tomb Raider with what you're supposed to believe is the better Lara Croft, only made $58 million. Even Cradle of Life, which is an absolute shit movie, made 65. And this is this is over 15 years ago. It was 2003, I think, that movie. Was it 2002 or 2003? I can't remember. But like, you have a brand new Tomb Raider, everybody's more paying attention to it, and they still could barely muster $60 million. They didn't even get that far. So it's showing that at the very least, video game movies now are starting to make a little bit again. And with Detective Pikachu, I think that's really going to start showing that you can make a good amount of money at it. And they opened up at $55 million, which is crazy good. So ideally, what this is going to do is that a lot more studios are going to see money in this. And you have to think that Nintendo, after the success of this film, they see a lot of money in their films now. Does this mean we get a proper Super Mario movie or a proper Zelda movie? Who knows? But it leaves the door open now. I mean, there's a new Mortal Kombat movie being made. There's a million plans for all these other movies. Like, I keep hearing a Mass Effect one potentially being done, although God only knows if the license will still be around by the time they even really take a look at it. But it's going to be interesting because at the very least now, like, now that I hear that there's a Mortal Kombat movie, for example, I'm not immediately going, well, this is going to be shit. I'm now at least curious to see, okay, let's get the trailer and see where things are going, and then I can make a real good call about it. Like, I saw the Sonic trailer, and I gave it a chance, and even then, I still think there might be something to enjoy with that movie, and especially now that they're going to do the design over, so it'll probably look like Sonic's supposed to. I think there's a very good chance that movie at least might be okay. It might not be offensively bad, like a lot of video game movies tend to be. But at the very least, I no longer have this immediate pessimism. So, like, if, say, PlayStation Studio or PlayStation Productions comes out with its first film and it's like, all right, we're making an Uncharted film. I don't even like Uncharted that much, and I'd be curious to see, especially if they go all the way and make Nathan Fillion make him Drake. If they do that, I'm in. I don't even care what the trailer is now, because I just want to see Nathan Fillion as Drake because I think he's the best person in that role. And if you saw that fan-made film that he was a part of, it was fantastic. Just that concept looked great, and I can't wait to see what they'll take that with if they go in that direction. And this means a lot of things could be opened up too. Whether it's animated, whether it's live action, I think there's a lot of open opportunities now with Pikachu being successful. We'll see what Sonic does. If somehow when that movie comes out and it's at least not thrown under the bus, that really tells us that I think we are officially turning the corner, because that movie looked like it wasn't being taken care of, and now that the backlash has happened and they are looking to at least change it to not piss off the fans that much. If this movie is at least okay, we know that we are in a very good place now for these kind of films, and that is all I want, because now that we've officially finished this first round of the MCU, although from what it sounds like maybe Spider-Man in July is going to be the real true end to it, at the very least, I'm now at the point that I don't want anybody screwing with the things that I like, because we now have seen that people can handle it when it's put in the right hands. We've now seen that an entire decade worth of Marvel films can be done perfectly well, and some of them being long-lasting. These things will pass the test of time. And now we have Detective Pikachu come out. Well, while it wasn't the best movie, and I said that before, it's an okay movie, but they took proper care of it in terms of how it looks and didn't go over the top and try to offend fans by not putting any care into it. We're seeing that fans are finally getting their money's worth and they're not being taken advantage of. And if we keep this up, it means that stuff like PlayStation Productions, Xbox can go down the line and do stuff, Nintendo can go around and do stuff, Ubisoft can go and do stuff, EA can do stuff and make loot boxes somehow in films. I don't know how they'll pull that off. We'll get to that in a minute, because that's the final thing I want to talk about. But it gives the opportunity for us to get proper movies of properties that we've been wanting for a long time. And we have had so many bad video game movies over the course of the last, really in this millennium alone. I still go up there and I say that Mortal Kombat is still my favorite video game movie of all time because it does not take away from what the series actually is. Because Mortal Kombat, the movie, the first one, by the way, not Annihilation, that one's pretty crap. But we know that it's just a silly game, and that's what the movie was. I'm trying to find it here on the ratings. Yeah, this is the thing. It got rated a 58 out of 100 on Metacritic. That's where it's sitting. Let me find the next movie that is even in the 50s. We go all the way to Prince of Persia in 2010. Mortal Kombat came out in 1995. There's 3 movies before. Like, I'm looking at the Wikipedia list of live action releases of video game movies. So actually, let's go through it because I got plenty of time here. We're only at 25 minutes? Yeah. So I got plenty of time here because I don't know how much I'll talk about loot boxes in the last little bit. Super Mario, Double Dragon, and Street Fighter are all not listed in Metacritic, but their Rotten Tomatoes are very low. Obviously, Annihilation is an absolute garbage movie, gets an 11. I never saw Wing Commander, that has a 21. Lara Croft Tomb Raider in 2001 got a 33. Resident Evil, which came out in 2002. I didn't like that one, but I really did like Apocalypse, which got a slightly better rating. I'm actually genuinely surprised. Metacritic has Cradle of Life at a 43. I don't know why, because that movie is actual absolute garbage. House of the Dead, which was pure trash, it's a 15. Resident Evil Apocalypse, which is my favorite Resident Evil movie of the series, is 35. Alone in the Dark, which I think was a Uwe Boll movie, which is absolute trash. It's a 9. It's one of the worst movies ever made, as far as I'm concerned. The Doom movie in 2005, which I actually have a soft spot for, just because The Rock's in it, and for that first person, Jesus, that first person sequence. I love that. That has a 34. Blood Rain is an 18. Silent Hill is a 31. That one was I never watched it, but I heard a lot of good things from people who did watch it. The Dead or Alive movie, I actually kind of liked because it was just a really silly, cheesy kung fu kind of movie. That is a 38, which I'm actually surprised the rating's that high because a lot of people that I saw watch it really trashed the shit out of it. Postal with a 22. Resident Evil Extinction with a 41. Hitman, which I never watched, but I didn't hear a lot of good things about, 35. Far Cry doesn't have a rating. Max Payne has a 31. I'm surprised by that because I heard it was trash. Street Fighter: The Legend of Chun-Li, that movie doesn't exist. Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time, like I said, was a 50. Resident Evil Afterlife and Retribution are all in the 30s. The new Silent Hill Revelation in 2012 was a poor movie. Need for Speed I never watched. I heard it was really bad. That has a 39, so I'm surprised to see it got that high a rating. I didn't even realize there's a second Hitman movie. That has a 28. Warcraft has a 32. I heard a lot of bad things about that movie from people who are big World of Warcraft guys. The Assassin's Creed movie I meant to watch, never did, just because I was curious because Michael Fassbender, I think, was the main character in that, and I was curious to see what he would do. But apparently that one didn't get received too well. Resident Evil's Final Chapter, which I think is bullshit. I think we'll see another one. Every time you see the final chapter, I'm like, yeah, bullshit. If there's enough money available, you'll make it. That had a 49. But this is the thing. The last 4 movies are all above a 40. Resident Evil Final Chapter in 2017 is a 49. Tomb Raider is at a 48. Rampage is at a 45. And now Detective Pikachu is a 53. So technically, by Metacritic standards, the original Mortal Kombat movie is still the best live-action video game movie of all time. And at this point, we have Sonic the Hedgehog due for 2020 now. Monster Hunter is also due for 2020. Admittedly, I'm not sure about that movie. I do like that Mila Jovovich is the main in there, which is at least giving me some confidence. But I didn't like the idea that they were taking it into a military mind. It's like, guys, just make a fantasy fucking movie. Stop adjusting to make it look more realistic. Stop doing that. There's a Mortal Kombat movie slated for 2021. Apparently there's a Minecraft film which is in the live action category, which worries me, and that's for 2022. And there's apparently a Metal Gear Solid film with no announced date. As I quickly look into the animated movies, there's not a whole lot. The first Pokemon movie, which is a classic, is at a 35. 2000, which I also enjoyed, is at a 28. The third one and the fourth one are in the 20s. There is no way Spirits Within is a 49. Who the fuck rated that movie high? That movie should be as well. It shouldn't even get a 1. It should get like a negative value. That thing is absolute trash. More like it's basically all Pokemon movies. The Ratchet and Clank movie, which was basically cutscenes, didn't do very well at all. The Angry Birds movie is a 43. That's almost offensive to me. And Kingsglaive, which was also terrible, is a 35. There's apparently an untitled Mario film, so that's new to me. That's slated for 2022. Looks like Nintendo is the part of it, so maybe they are looking into this now that Pikachu succeeded, and they're looking into making it a proper animated Mario film, which would be very curious. Other than that, I mean, you could also count like the animated stuff, and by animate I mean anime, because they did like a lot of Persona ones and things like that were okay, but like I said before, what this is at least showing is that we're getting a little more care and work put into a lot of video game related projects, whereas it used to just be let's just slap the name on it and we'll probably make a good, decent showing at the box office and we'll probably make our money back. Now we're starting to see people being like, they're looking at what Marvel's doing, and that's the biggest example. They're looking at what they're doing and saying they're making a fuck ton of money off of nerds. If we even put half of the amount of care that they're putting into their projects, there's no way we can't make a killing off of these movies. And that's why it leaves so many options open. Like there's the Witcher television series, and if that gets put with any care, that's going to end up being a great success. You know, you have all these options with properties like Mass Effect and various Nintendo properties. Like a Metroid movie would be fucking incredible. You have all these ideas that you can take and run with. And not even going based off the source material. You can make an original movie. Like, I would rather them make a Mass Effect movie that's its own thing rather than being just, oh, here's Commander Shepard again. I would rather, because the thing is too with Commander Shepard, or with any Mass Effect game, is people have made their own character. So it would make sense to have like a side story. It would be really interesting to have, like, say, the First Contact War with the Turians. Like, that would be a really cool story to do. You could have, like, a person in N7 armor as, like, the Shepard, you know, helping out in the battle, and that kind of casts into what the games would be. Or you can do something set in the future, or you can do something way in the past when they've... You can do whatever you want with it. It doesn't have to necessarily be humans either. You can do an animated, like a 3D animated feature where it's all alien races. It could be like how the Asari got to where they are, where the Turians got where they are, the Solarians, or you can do whatever you want with it. And I think that's what opens a lot to the idea of films becoming a thing in the video game industry, because we know that there's definitely a massive core of fans that would love to go this route. And all we need is a few people to head studios that will take this shit seriously, and we will enjoy a massive set of movies, the same way that we've been enjoying Marvel movies for the last 10 years. Same way that we've been on and off enjoying DC movies, but I mean, at the very least, there's been a few there that, you know, it's not wasting our time, right? But we're seeing now that nerd culture films can be done properly, and as soon as video games become another part of that equation, man, there's going to be way too many movies every year that I'm going to end up spending money on. That's all I can say about that. So the last thing I want to get into, obviously, Belgium has outright banned loot boxes. So, for example, Fire Emblem Heroes and I think Dragalia Lost are the two games specifically that were mentioned. They're no longer able to be used in Belgium because of loot boxes. And a lot of people are taking umbrage with that, obviously, because they're mad because they can't make money off of people's fucking addictive personalities. Now, the conversation can go two ways here. So I'm going to go with the first option, which is people getting mad about, you know, not being able to do things in Belgium. Like there was an article I'm reading right now that was a publisher or representative of a publisher in Finland who was complaining about it. And I'm trying to, where's the quote that it was? Well, here's one here. I just don't think it's fair. The public perception now is that a lot of politicians and people think that every video game is some form of gambling, and that is not what really is happening. Yeah, but at the end of the day, you wouldn't say this if you weren't putting in a game that has loot boxes. If you're a company that's making first, like if you're Dragon Quest, if you're right now Square Enix releasing that game, do you give a shit? Like, they're not taking that game away from Belgium. They're not taking Kingdom Hearts 3 away from Belgium. They wouldn't take The Witcher away from Belgium. So what's the problem here? The problem is that you're mad that you can't release a shitty game with a bunch of microtransactions in there to get people to make really stupid purchases because they don't want to wait. And here's the thing about the whale conversation. I get it, because I play MLB The Show 19, and I watch people talk about how they spent $300 in microtransactions on the game, and it blows my fucking mind. But those people, they usually say it, hey, I don't get a lot of time to play it, and I want to be able to collect all these guys, so this is my way of getting around it, and I have the money to do so. By all means, do that. The problem is that when games like MLB The Show put in these microtransactions, they price them way too fucking high. I think I might have said this on my channel before, but just to reiterate, I'm going to pull it up again just to give you an idea of how ridiculous. Excuse me, I'm suddenly getting like empty stomach burps, which is not helping. The way that they do their microtransactions in this game are ridiculous when you really think about it. So, for example, if you want to buy a single pack, it is 1,500 stubs. That's the name of the currency. In order to be able to buy that, you need to buy 2 sets of 1,000, and it's $1.50 each. So to open one pack, which will give you usually nothing, it's $3. It was the same with Fire Emblem Heroes. You pay $2.50, I think, and you don't even get enough orbs to actually make a summon. This is the problem. The base stubs, and I'm going to use this as my example. So it's $1.50 Canadian to buy 1,000 stubs. That doesn't even make you buy one pack. At the very least, they should give you an option that is 1,500 subs for a pack. And what it should be is 50 cents. That is the highest I will allow for that. I won't even allow $1 because it's one pack. It gives you nothing. Nothing. It's nothing usable. At least if you open up a pack of Yu-Gi-Oh cards or a pack of Pokemon cards, you might find something you can use right away. But in MLB The Show 19, if you open a basic pack and you get nothing but commons and bronzes, it means jack shit. Because by the time that you get to the point that you want to spend money on stubs like this, you already have a lineup decent enough that you don't need those wasteful cards. So here we go, 5,000 stubs, $7. Again, I can make 5,000 stubs in 10 minutes if I want to. On a good day, I can make that back in 10 minutes. Flipping cards in the market. 11,000 stubs, because it's 10,000 with a 1,000 bonus, it's $13.50. For 24,000, it's $27. For 67,500, it's $67. And for 150,000 stubs, which is about where I'm at now, it's $133.50 Canadian. Which means it's probably it's like $100, maybe 110 US. That's insane. On average, when I flip cards for, say, 3 to 4 hours, just killing time, I can make potentially $15 worth of currency, if not more. I've had days where I've been bored and I've spent maybe 6 to 8 hours just on the market while I'm listening to stuff in the background. I've made more than 30,000 stubs, which means I've made essentially $30 worth of currency. That's crazy. So let me tell you what I'd be pricing these at. So the 1,000 stubs, like I said, I would put at 50 cents at most. 5,000 stubs, $2. 11,000 stubs, $5. 24,000, $10. 67,500, $20, and then for 150, you know what? I'll give it 30. That's as far as I'll go. You should never be paying more than the half price of a full video game for currency. I don't care what you can apparently buy. Because, by the way, 150,000 doesn't actually get you the best stuff all the time. You probably can get one really good card. So when you really think about it, you've just paid $70 for a video game, a full video game. And for one really good card, you're paying $100+. So are you trying to tell me that the price of a video game is less than one really good player? This is why loot boxes need to be taken to task. I'm not there when it comes to outright banning. I think Belgium doing it at least is probably for the better, because it's going to suddenly put these companies under the fucking gun because they need to be. However, the problem is that I think there's a way to do loot boxes and do them properly. Like, for example, I play the Is It Wrong to Pick Up Girls in a Dungeon mobile game. And a lot of the time, you can earn a good chunk of currency just from playing over time. And what I usually do is I stockpile it for an event that I want. And most of the time when they come up with an event, they will give you, an option. Sometimes the price is even half off. But they will say, hey, a lot of the time, pay 400 of the is it crystals? No, it's not crystals. I can't think of what the currency is right now, which is funny because I play this game way too much. But it's 400, and you can make that in a few weeks if you just play like very casually. If you play hardcore, there's no way you can't make that. You pay 400 of the currency, and what'll often happen is they'll say you're guaranteed at least one 4-star card, which is the best one you can get, and it's going to be one of the ones based on the event. So there's an event that sometimes has 2. And if you want one of those 2, you have a 50-50 shot of getting it when you buy that first step. After that, it's saying, hey, do this another 4 times, you'll get the guarantee. But at the very least, the first time you buy it, you are guaranteed to get something good. I would be okay with MLB The Show making me pay, let's say, $20 for... Well, actually, no, I'm not even going to go that. Let's go with the packs. If I buy a 50 set of packs, which is, I think, 75,000 subs. So I could do that. I could buy 2 of them right now. There is a very distinct chance that I don't get a single diamond, which is the highest tier. There's a very... I opened a 20 when I got the game because I got it pre-ordered. I didn't get a single thing in it. Didn't get a single thing. I could open a 50 and get nothing. If I buy a 50, there should be a guarantee that I get a... Actually, you know what? I'm going to go further. If you buy a 20, you should be guaranteed a diamond. And if you buy a 50, you should get to choose that diamond. That's how I look at it. If you're going to charge people an exorbitant amount of in-game currency and money to be able to just get digital copies of things, then you should be able to, not even should, you have to offer an option that gives them something so that they feel they got their money's worth. Because otherwise, it is 100% gambling. That is the real problem with loot boxes, is that it's gambling. Because there is a very good chance that you start your hand off with 15 and you take that risk and you get a 10. Just like there's a chance that you get a 6 and you win your money. That's ridiculous. I shouldn't be spending as much as you end up having to do and coming out with nothing. Because if I want to do that, I'll buy a fucking EA game. That's how it works. Because at the very least, I might get some hours out of it. If I buy a 50-pack of baseball cards and none of them are diamond and I can't put them in my lineup because they're useless because my lineup's already better than that, what did I just spend 75,000 subs for? Which, by the way, going back to what the prices are, that's like, what, $70 worth of currency? Yeah, you could basically say that every 1,000 is $1. Like, that's how you can kind of look at it. That's insane. I spent $50 worth of my money and I end up coming out with literally nothing. What was the point? I could have gone on the PlayStation Store and probably gotten 3 really good games instead of buying fucking stupid cards. And this is where loot boxes are at the huge problem. Is that you have a very distinct chance of walking out with nothing. And if you're spending that kind of money, you shouldn't be walking out with nothing. That's why I at least like what Memoria Freeze does and what a lot of other gacha games are doing now, where it's saying, hey, at least if you do this for the first time, we're going to give you something so that you don't feel like you wasted your time. Then you get the whales that go and spend 5 separate sets of that same currency to get another. That's where I think I'm okay with it. As long as you are giving the option to people who play casually and are not willing to spend that kind of money that they can still accomplish something, then I think loot boxes have a place. However, when you have games that literally go out of their way to make sure that it is a wall if you don't spend money, then those need to go. And I think that's why we needed Belgium to take the heavy approach. But it has to, because it's the only way that companies are going to have to stop for a moment and think, what can we do to at least salvage this? And like I said, there are 2 key problems that I have with loot boxes. It's the pricing, because it's way too much for what you're asking for, what you're getting. And 2, you need to make it available more to that smaller players that aren't going to spend the kind of money can still have a point of doing it. Because if you spend $1,000 on something, you're going to get something out of it. You better get something out of it for that matter. But if you're like me and you don't have that much money to spend, and you can make the currency slowly on your own pace, I shouldn't be wasting it getting nothing. So with that being said, do I think that, anybody who is mad about Belgium getting rid of loot boxes should be upset? No, because you are the reason that this had to happen. You can't sit there and say that you didn't know that this was going to come. Did you really believe that you were going to screw customers over this hard for this long without somebody bouncing back at it? You're out of your mind. This is something you caused, and now you are wallowing in your own shit. And now you're mad because you're not going to get away with it anymore. And hopefully, Belgium isn't the only one that goes this route. I think we may have to have more bans before we really get this going. We may have to have proper regulations, because at this point, if the industry isn't going to do it itself, then the government's going to have to step in. And I don't like the government stepping in, but if they're the only ones that are going to do anything about it, then we have to let them do it. The only option is you need to have somebody like the ESRB. You need to create another company to take all these companies to task. That's the only thing you can do. And I don't know how you do that. But that's the only thing you can do. You have to have a company out there on the side, kind of like what the ESRB is with the ratings, that go through games and see, okay, well, these transactions are going to be way too... Like, they can go ahead and say, you need to either allow... Like, they could even just strictly say, you need to slice your prices on all these by 25%, otherwise we are not letting you release this game. I think that would be a great thing to do. So at the very least, we can have games that seem fair. And if they don't seem fair, then we can start looking into who's paying off that fucking company. Because there's always that possibility. Which, by the way, we know EA will be the first one to try that. But man, like... It's just not working. And I don't care what various people in the industry are saying about it. I don't care anymore. You failed. You fucked up, and now you're going to have to deal with it. Because enough people have yelled about it from your fan base that you apparently care about so much that you keep making them spend $50 for no reason. You are the reason that this is all happening. And now you get to have to deal with a world where you're going to have to watch your fucking back. And until you learn why this happened, and until you admit that you were wrong, until you fix those problems, this is what it's going to be like for a while now. Because you have brought the industry down a peg. We were evolving so much in the last 10 years, and loot boxes have put it right back to where it needs to be reinforced, to the fact that government had to be involved. You screwed up. And this is what's going to happen. And if this means the government has to start regulating this shit, if it's the only way, then that's the only way. And it needs to be done. Enough said. So with that being said, that's going to end the show for me, because there's, oddly enough, a lot of the news came in the last 2 days that I wanted to talk about. So I was worrying because I didn't think there was going to be that much to talk about. I guess I can just end it by saying it's very weird as a guy who lives in the greater Toronto area to have a sports team in the finals of any of the big sports that we are a part of. Because I don't count soccer, because it's still very regional. The Toronto Raptors, for the first time, have made the NBA Finals. And it's the first time since 1994 that a Toronto team, an Ontario team, actually no, that's not true. The Ottawa Senators made the Cup Final. So yeah, it's the first time since 1994 that when the Toronto Blue Jays made the World Series. That's the last time that a Toronto team has made the finals of a playoffs. It's crazy. As a Toronto sports fan, it sucks because we have had so much of a lack of success in a long time. I envy places like New York and LA and Boston and Chicago and various other places in the States that have had all these teams that have done so well. On and off, but they've done well. I wish I could have been a Giants fan. I wish I could have been a Blackhawks fan. I wish I could be... Actually, I don't wish I could be a Boston fan because screw Boston. But it's a weird place to be in when I've been so used to disappointment. And obviously, as a Leafs fan, things are looking up, but it hasn't quite gotten to that full point of, oh my God, we finally turned the corner. For Blue Jays fans, we had a couple of years that were unbelievable and so much fun. I have friends that get mad and saying, no, we should have gotten a World Series ring. I'm like, shut up. We got 2 American League Championship Series berths after not doing anything for over 20 years. Like, I'll take that. I'll take mild success. But at least with the Raptors now, and I fully expect them to lose to the Golden State Warriors because I don't know who does beat them. But having them in the finals alone is all we need. Because now it brings a sense of confidence here in Toronto, where we go, you know what? Our team can actually accomplish something. And I hope for places out there, if you're listening and you're from a different city, and your favorite team has not gone really far in a long time. Like, I can't imagine how St. Louis Blues fans are feeling right now, even though they might lose to Boston. But, I mean, it's been so long for them to have a finals berth. That's cool. And it's like, I can't imagine what it was like for a Chicago Cubs fan to win the World Series finally a couple of years back. There are many people that were Cubs fans and never lived for a championship. So for them to finally get one, my God, I can't imagine how that would have felt. I was young enough to see the Blue Jays win in 94, although I don't remember the moment as much. I just know that it happened, and I do remember seeing it. But I didn't really react to it because I wasn't old enough to really enjoy it. When TFC won, I was excited, but I'm not a big soccer fan. So if I ever see the Blue Jays or the Maple Leafs specifically, because those are my 2 teams, I'm not the biggest Raptors fan. I'm just kind of there, just excited with everybody else. If they somehow win, that's a huge deal. But for me personally, if I ever see the Blue Jays or the Maple Leafs win a championship, that will be the moment that I go, holy crap, I finally got to see one. You know, as a pro wrestling fan, I've gotten to see several people finally win the title. Like, seeing Kofi Kingston finally win the title at WrestleMania was a big deal to me. Because that was a guy that I used to cheer for way back when. And saw him grow and get better and better, and then all of a sudden just plateau, apparently. And to see him finally win, that was a big deal. To see CM Punk beat John Cena at Money in the Bank at that infamous time where he ran out of the building with the title. Stuff like that is what makes me understand why I'm a sports fan. Because when those moments finally happen, they mean the world. And I hope that the Raptors can accomplish the impossible. Because for Toronto Raptors fans that have been a fan since the team began, they deserve that. The Golden State Warriors don't deserve another championship. They've had theirs. So we'll see what happens. But with that being said, thanks for listening, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you want more stuff. I'm trying to stay on top of doing at least content aside from this podcast, but we'll see how things go. It all depends on what happens in the news. So, thanks for listening, guys, and I will see you next time.